I could be here today to share my experience with you. Stuart has asked me to not talk about the raid by the ATF on the Branch Davidian Church or the ensuing 51 days that followed, ending in a tank attack and a fire. A lot of that has been gone over. A lot of people have done research on the 51 days, what went on, and so forth, and it's been cataloged in documentaries and in books. And so what Stuart has asked me to address today is what it was like after the fact, after a few of us got out of the fire. There was about 130 people in the building at the time the tanks began demolishing it around our ears, and by the time the fire started, or after the fire started, we find out that only 9 of them made it out alive, and I was one of them. All of the ones that came out and survived, except one, all of them came out in view of media cameras. They either jumped out of second floor windows. One of the girls that did that broke her leg when she hit the ground, fell back into the fire and was burned on her legs. A couple of other girls jumped out of windows. They were severely burned. They spent weeks up here in the Parkland Hospital, in the burn ward. Everybody that came out on the front managed to survive. People that tried to go out the back, where there were no cameras to record what was going on, we believe were shot. They were either shot and killed outside and later bulldozed back into the ashes, into the where the fire had been, or else they were driven back in. In other words, they changed their mind about coming out, fearing that they would be shot because the bullets were being directed in there towards them. When I came out, my hands were burnt, the side of my neck was burnt, my left ankle was burnt, and I proceeded to come out and head toward the front gate area, which was where 4 others that I had noticed that had got out ahead of me were headed up towards the front gate. When I came out and chose to follow them up there, there was a sniper outside of one of the tanks just off to the south side of the building that was screaming at me to come over to him. And so I had to kind of hobble through all of the plowed up ground. They'd been continually circling the building with these tanks for weeks, and the ground was all plowed up basically. But I made my way over there, and he kept screaming at me, "Where are the kids? Where are the kids?" And I had to tell him I didn't know where the kids were. I hadn't seen them for a couple of days. At that time, I didn't know what had happened to them. One thing that did involve the kids was that we had no gas masks for children. In fact, we had only a few gas masks for the whole 130 people that were in there. And we find out later that many of the children died not from being burnt to death, not necessarily from the gas, but from being boiled because their parents were trying to excuse me. The parents were trying to protect them by wrapping them in wet towels and wet blankets. When I got up to the front gate, the other 4 guys that I'd seen ahead of me were laying on the ground, handcuffed, and I was told to lay down, start a new row with my head to their feet. And I was immediately handcuffed in spite of the fact that all the skin was rolling off my hands. And they proceeded to ask me what my name was and so forth. And I answered them. I had nothing to hide. But shortly after I laid down and was handcuffed, they brought the girl that had jumped out of the window and broke her leg up and put her down beside me. They were screaming at her, "What's your name? What's your name?" And she wasn't responding at all. And so I saw one of the agents that were up there grab a big handful of her hair and was just jerking her head back and forth, screaming at her, "Tell us your name." And I heard a voice off behind me that said, "You better not be doing that. They're taking pictures." So he kind of let her hair go, and he